Welcome to Rainbows Are Circles, a podcast exploring human potential and everyday wonder. What possibilities open up for us when we explore life with optimism, curiosity, and an open mind? Join me, Julie Malari, as we wake up to wonder and speak with inspirational guests on the topics of personal development, alternative health, and even magical, mystical, yet often misunderstood practices. Are you ready? Yeah. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Rainbows Are Circles. I'm happy to be back. I know it's been a minute or many minutes since I've released an episode. This year's been pretty busy, lots of things happening. I moved to a different place. I had a change in my relationship, and I was just taking some time off to heal and also to just sort of figure out my life a little bit. If you remember a recent episode I did with David Strickle, he talks about the Taya practice and he channels entities called the stream. Well, after that episode, I was really inspired to learn more and to work with him. So I joined his bootcamp program, which I graduated from, I would say a month or two ago. And that took up a lot of my time, but in a good way. I really, really enjoyed the program. I learned a lot from it. I feel like I've had a lot of positive transformation in my life from it. And I am really looking forward to continuing to work with David and to practice the tools that I learned in the bootcamp and to stay connected to the community, because it was such a supportive, inspiring community to be part of. I really released a lot of limiting beliefs that I had before. And I'm continuing that process. Like, it's a process that never really fully finishes, because as long as we're alive, our purpose really is to continue learning and expanding and growing. One thing I'm working on is allowing myself to not be perfect and to not make every episode super polished, because I think that's part of why I actually took a break from creating episodes, because I was always trying so hard to make each episode and each introduction and everything just super perfect and clean and polished. And it was to the point that it wasn't even enjoyable for me anymore to create episodes. It was enjoyable for me to have conversations with people and to interview people, but the actual process of like creating the intros and editing things and putting together the show notes and all of that was so exhausting, because I was really obsessed with like trying to make everything perfect. And in the boot camp that I did with David, one of the things that I came to realize was that tendency to try to make everything a certain way, to the point that it just was really, really affecting my enjoyment of the process. And so I'm learning to release that need for perfection. And so I'm committing to not re-recording every time like I stumble or make a mistake or say something where I feel like I just put my foot in my mouth. So please bear with me as I go through this process. And I hope that the intros and everything will feel a little bit more natural and my personality can come out a little bit more, because I'm not trying to like edit everything and make myself appear a certain way. So thanks for sticking with me through that long introduction. Let's jump into our guest and topic for today, because it's a really good one. So today we're talking about empathy and what it means to be an empath. So for those of you not familiar, an empath, so really basic definition, an empath is somebody who feels the energy of other people. Now, to an extent, everybody does that, but some people are really sensitive to it and are more natural at doing that. So, Wendy De Rosa is our guest today, and she's the author of Becoming an Empowered Empath: How to Clear Energy, Set Boundaries, and Embody Your Intuition. She's the founder of the School of Intuitive Studies and has been helping people develop their intuition and experience personal transformation and work with their gift as an empath for over 2 decades. So Wendy is going to be speaking to us about, why it can be considered not a gift to be an empath, and also how you can turn that around and become an empowered empath, how to set boundaries, how to clear energy from your body that's not yours, and how to really hone your skills as an empath so that it's working for you and not against you. She's going to guide us through a really lovely grounding meditation to help us connect with our roots, with our root chakra. And for my Patreon listeners, I'll put that meditation in our Patreon page, so you can access that meditation by itself and use it whenever you want. So without further ado, let's bring in Wendy De Rosa. Welcome, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining us on Rainbows Are Circles. We're happy to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so you are a teacher of intuition as well as empowering those who are empaths. So what exactly is an empath to begin with?
Yeah, good question. So, an empath is someone who feels through their sentient body the energy of others. And that can be emotional energy, that can be a vibe someone's putting off, that can be energy in a space, or it can be energy of the collective. So, it's through the felt sense that they're feeling energy. Where empaths often will identify, they'll say, well, I'm an empath, therefore I take on people's energy. And that is actually being overly empathic. The empath is the felt sense. It's actually the clair sentient sense of the body. But the experience often of being overly empathic is where empaths kind of feel like it's not a gift.
Okay, so being an empath really just means like you sense and you take in energy through like your physical senses. Is that correct?
Yeah. So essentially, clairsentience is, again, the felt sense in the body. And it's the first sense that develops in the womb, that's the empathic sense. It's the first sense that develops for human beings, is this empathic awareness. And so we're born with it and we come into this world with it. And we're not necessarily raised in environments that knew what to do with that. Considered sensitivity or oversensitivity, or even a child's emotional intelligence and what they might need to develop, emotional connection, emotional responsibility, having that emotional IQ inside. And so what ends up happening is we've been often raised in spaces and environments where we were having to feel everything that's going on around us and sort of absorb it, take it into our system in order to bond and find safety in the space, in the family of origin or in the system that we were raised in. And so that experience of that's sort of the premise of what happens for empaths, is that a lot of our pattern of absorbing energy starts very, very young in the body.
Okay. And is that how it happened for you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was raised in a big Italian Catholic family, 8 kids and second oldest girl. And, I had a lot of responsibility as a child. I was very sensitive. I mean, what I know now, I can say now is I had sort of all 4 clairs. I could see, hear, feel, and know as a child. But to a child who doesn't know what that is, or has no language or no construct for that, and no one's saying, honey, those are my emotions, not yours. That's mommy stuff. That's daddy stuff. Or, having sort of emotional responsibility modeled for us. To a sensitive child, that it's just, you take in everything. I mean, it's open. I'm just open. And so I had that experience growing up, and through that really being open, I took in everything around me, from siblings to family to everywhere. Developed anxiety, developed depression, gained a lot of weight as a child. I progressed with a lot of responsibility. Went to work to help pay bills in the house at 12 years old, and continued on through my high school years. Just didn't really have much of a childhood. And then by the time I was 19, I had a nervous breakdown in my third semester in college, just from not, just from the energetic overwhelm of life, nervous system shot, and also this very intuitive gift and ability inside me, budding and not knowing exactly what to do with it, and kind of feeling like I was crazy.
So you were kind of like a little sponge, just absorbing the energy of everybody around you, and thinking, or perhaps feeling like it was your own energy, when really you were just you were absorbing things from your parents, or troubles that your siblings were going through.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was definitely absorbing it into my system. And then, as it's just like what we do as children, when we experience something that doesn't feel okay, we internalize that as, I'm not okay. This doesn't feel safe. This doesn't feel good. I must not be good. I mean, we start to develop our early childhood beliefs and ways of how we're going to feel accepted in our environment. And what I talk about in the book specifically is that so much of that consciousness is hardwired at the base of our body. I talk about the chakra system in the book, and we have this power center at the base of our spine. It's our root chakra. And it houses what we marinated in from 0 to 7 years old, consciously, unconsciously, verbally, non-verbally, what we came into this world with, what the system believed, the tribal rules of the system, whatever it might be, or the family, all of that becomes part of our hardwiring at the base of our body, and in our, our whole construct in ourselves. And for sensitive children who are raised in environments where they really get it deep down, it's not okay for me to be me. Like me in my authentic way of existing as a sensitive being, clearly I'm not getting validation or support on that. I'm getting punished instead, and told my emotions are bad and wrong, and I shouldn't express myself. I'm getting all this messaging because that was kind of normal in a lot of our sort of more patriarchal parenting systems. And so what happens is the root chakra starts to contract in the body. It goes into a feeling of, oh no, I'm not safe here to be me. So the root chakra contracts, the spirit lifts up in the body. We start to be high functioning in the head, in the heart. And in the second chakra area of the body, which is our empathic power center, the power center that feels everything under the table, blows open. And it blows open because the root chakra it's compensating. The root chakra is closed down. Second chakra opens up to feel everything that everybody else needs emotionally, energetically. And that's the moment that our little sensitive beings go into hypervigilance. And that pattern repeats itself over and over and over again in life. And that's our default. That is the pattern for empaths when we absorb too much energy. It's root chakra contraction, second chakra, probably third chakra also, very open, impressionable, taking energy in, because that was the early childhood pattern in how we were going to have tabs on what was going on. So we knew how to stay safe.
Okay. You just kind of blew my mind because I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like when we don't feel safe, because the root chakra is all about safety and trust and feeling like we belong in the world. And when we don't feel like we can be ourselves, and we don't feel safe, that energy moves up to the second chakra, which is all about emotion. And we compensate that lack of trust and safety by being like super vigilant and by are empaths usually like people pleasers?
Yeah,
oftentimes? Okay.
Second
It's like a
chakra
way to survive.
open. Yep. I'm going to stay open. I will take, I will take it in. I'll take responsibility for the situation so that so-and-so feels safe so that I'm okay. That's that people pleasing.
Oh my goodness.
Pattern. Yeah.
That is definitely something that I'm working through. Yeah. And I definitely feel like I've developed a lot more in the upper chakras and not so much. And I am doing your meditations to kind of help with this, and I'm finding it really helpful. But thank you for sharing that. What are some, I mean, you talked about this already a little bit, but what are some common symptoms of people that are overly empathetic?
Yeah. So some people might find I have a conversation with someone, a dear friend, anybody, someone on the street, and I walk away feeling terrible and that person walks away feeling great. I took on all of their stuff. That might be a common experience. Sometimes on the physiological level, some people will feel migraines chronically. They might feel digestive issues. The gut isn't really working. I mean, that's an indication that the lower first, second, and third chakras are really open and that there's too much information coming in, and that literally the solar plexus region of the body is about digesting food, but it's about digesting life too. And if there's more coming in than the system can digest on an energetic level, the gut shuts down, can't metabolize all of that. It's not meant to. So there can be, sort of digestive issues, stress, anxiety certainly can ensue from lots of overwhelming amount of energy coming in. I mean, one of the things I want to say is like, as much as we can sort of, I don't know, I think sometimes it's a blindfold coming off when you realize, I'm not so grounded in these lower chakras, and it's not anyone's fault. It's like we weren't really taught about the energetic anatomy, first of all, in our school raising. But secondly, it's actually a beautiful compensation that our soul does when something doesn't feel safe to us. It's like the root chakra closes down and contracts, I should say, because it's preserving ourselves. Our spirit lifts up in our upper body because that is a self-preservation. And, we might develop in the upper clairs more so because there's excess prana moving, excess life force energy in the upper body, because that's where the soul's dwelling. But once we are on this, sort of healing journey, it's not just a spiritual journey, it's the healing journey. Especially for empaths and sensitive people, once we start to work on energetically, like what's in the basement of our body, like first chakra, survival issues and existential issues. Why am I here? Why was I put on this planet? Why didn't I go to a different planet? Or I'm joking, but serious. Some people feel that way. In truth, they do. Or the second chakra, where the majority of our feminine wounds, historically, collectively, the feminine energy suppression lives. Doesn't matter the gender. It's an area of our body where we carry a lot of stuffed down emotions and true self. Part of our healing work on the path is that we do start to get connected to these lower power centers, and that's what makes us more grounded. It's not just I love to visualize the grounding cord. I talk about it in my book, but sometimes that doesn't work for people because it's not so much about just tuning into a grounding cord. It's about how do I embody these first, second, and third power centers in my system and take up space in my body, and through my radiance, I start to have more boundaries.
Okay, so how do we do that?
I know it's a lot. I wish I could say, here's a couple exercises, do this, but it's kind of what my book is really about, is that there are practices we can do, but then there's the deeper healing journey. And part of it begins with, and I go into this further in the book, but part of it is, how do you unfurl that root chakra? Like, how do we start to recognize that I live with subconscious fear about walking on this earth? And for many people, that is still very current and very real. And so it might not be about how do I feel safe in the world. It might be, how do I feel safe in myself? And as an adult, claim my safety. I am safe in my body because because this is my root chakra. No one else gets to be in here. This is my body, my space, my power center. And we start to really move in, literally, energetically move into that space and claim it as our own. And this is my power of trust in this area of my body. And I'm going to trust myself first, more so than anyone else outside of myself. I'm going to trust me. So root chakra is so much about trust in our humanity. Faith is crown chakra, but root chakra is like our embodiment of, I'm going to feel me, feel my body, trust my body. When we start to allow that root chakra power to unfurl in that area, literally the second and third chakras can come into balance on their own. They just stop overcompensating. And, because we have more sense of ourselves and more grounding in ourselves.
Okay, so it all begins with unfurling and strengthening the root chakra through things like meditation.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I talk about in the book is how it's so difficult to go into chakras from cognition, like from frontal lobe of our brain. We have to go in through deeper meditation or from guided meditation. I do guided meditations in the book to take people in, but it's that guided journey into those areas of the body to allow our intuition to show us what's there. That's what starts shifting the consciousness in this, in our power centers and in our body.
So once we have really kind of opened up the root chakra and we're more balanced and we start to become more empowered as empaths, what are some differences that we might notice in our lives?
Yeah, well, everything changes.
Your whole life.
Well, I'll say it this way. Our boundaries, boundaries is the skin on the outside of the skin. It's the auric field. So we don't just begin and end here in our physical skin. We have, about 8 to 12 inches outside our body, our auric field. And so we can put light around our aura and protect us. And that's a great maintenance tool. But where we shift as empaths is through the awareness that we have inner radiance, and that inner radiance starts with the central channel that runs through the chakras, and that it's through our grounding into the earth and it's through our sourcing through the crown that this radiance, this soul strength, this self starts to emerge in the body. And then when we start to focus on that radiance, we walk in the world differently. We don't leave vacancies to be absorbing energy or to be knocked off our center. Our relationships shift, or how we are in relationship with people change, because we're holding power for ourselves. We might make decisions from being more embodied and, expanded in ourselves, as opposed to, again, feeling like I'm not in my center and I have to negotiate space with all this energy around me, or expectations of me. So the empath shifts when we start to recognize that part of empathic boundaries comes from the soul strength, from the inner healing, from the radiance from our power centers, not just upper body, but definitely deeper lower body, and that we're taking up more space inside ourselves.
Mm. Okay. And we're also connected to the earth. Like you talk about, connecting to your grounding cord and connecting to the earth a lot in your meditations. And so I imagine that like that strength and safety comes from like feeling like we belong in the earth and we're connected to the earth as well as connected to like the upper realms. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the practices I love is visualizing that our grounding cords are these tree trunk like image, that's tree trunk that secures the sides of our hips and our low belly and low spine, and it extends deep down into the earth, and it connects us to the powers of safety and slowing down and trust, and being grounded in ourselves. That grounding cord, is that earth energy. It's also this sense of self. I mean, it's the sense that if I am grounded here, I feel myself. It develops more of a sense of self there when we are grounded. And that grounding cord sources the bottom of our pillar, of our central channel. And yes, we have our divine connection to higher power, grace, light, love, whatever terminology people use. But that is sort of that we are in the middle of heaven and earth, so to speak, or a cosmic and earth connection, and that both are necessary for us to experience our wholeness and the radiance of our pillar.
Yeah. So ideally we want to be connected to both. And oftentimes, you mentioned this I listened to one of your other podcasts. You mentioned that we oftentimes like our energy is all kind of like up here, like in the upper body. And that's because that's what our society has prioritized and told us is important, like being really intellectual and, thinking, like planning and rationalizing. And now that we're kind of shifting and evolving, we're starting to tap more into like the lower areas of our body and, like connecting with our feminine energy more, our emotions, our vulnerability, our creativity, our root chakras. And that is a sign of like our human evolution, right?
Yep. Yes. It's absolutely a sign of our human evolution. I mean, I do believe that, I know it's difficult sometimes for empaths to feel like, sort of joked about this in the beginning, but to feel like, I have this ability, and Wendy, you're telling me it's a gift. It doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like a curse, but part of that experience is that the empathic nature is so connected to the feminine. And like you're talking about it, being in our vulnerability, being in our truth, being in our authentic emotions, being connectable in this area of the body and the second chakra area of the body. And we are observing in humanity, like in the world out there, the rise of the feminine. And so much of that was very activated in 2020. And it wasn't that it didn't exist before, it's that it erupted. It was like, it can only stay suppressed for so long till the pressure cooker brings it all up. But it's everything from gender to race to the environment to politics to, I mean, you name it. We were, all of it surfaces. And so much of that is about our humanity and what we have suppressed, and that the pathway through healing this isn't about coming at it from old patriarchal construct. It's coming at it from the feminine, from the empaths, from empaths saying, I have to be real with how I feel, or we need to find creative solutions here, or I need connection, or I need to go through my own healing and my compassion for myself, or I need to lead with my heart. I mean, I believe the empaths are the ones that are leading the way to a new paradigm of all of us existing in the world, but it has us getting in touch with our feminine.
Yeah, totally. Do you think that everyone is an empath to a certain extent, or how does that work?
Yeah, this is how I feel. I mean, I certainly think there are people who feel that they're not empathic. They might be more what I would call clairvoyant or clairaudient, meaning they might have heightened perception, brilliant ideas. They might be excellent expressors, communicators, but maybe they don't feel like they have the empathic emotional connection. But the way I feel about it is that, empath being the first sense that develops in the womb, people do come in with an empathic sense. We're either conditioned to nurture it, or somehow through our conditioning, something happens to it. It either becomes overly or we suppress it. And I just feel like with everything that's going on the planet right now, a lot of people may not identify as an empath, but certainly can have empathic experiences. Like there's no way to not feel the intensity. It's that intense. I think that people can certainly relate to feeling things.
Yeah. Unless you're like a robot.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy, since we talked so much about the importance of connecting to our roots, would you be willing to guide us through a meditation to help us connect with that?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close our eyes and settle into our lower bodies, into your lower body, if you're listening. And we'll do that by guiding your breath down to your tailbone, your sit bones, your hips. And envisioning a beautiful presence of a tree trunk, or maybe it feels like a beam of light. It's nice and secure around the sides of your hips and your low belly and low spine. And it extends down deeply through the layers of the earth, deep into the core of the planet, sprouting roots around the core. There's a great sphere of divinity and grace around each of us here. And that through that awareness of protection around your auric field, just invite your soul to take a deeper seat as your grounding cord extends deeply, sprouts its roots, connects you into the power of stability, trust in yourself, grounding, safety. Just as I mentioned in the beginning, you can feel as you sit more deeply into your root chakra area at your tailbone, you can just gently allow with your breath that area to possibly unfurl. And there's no need to force it. You never need to force anything in our body. But this sense of unfurling with the awareness of I am moving into this space in my body. It's mine. And I am safe here in my root chakra. This is my body, my space. I pray as light is surrounding all of us here, that your soul, as it's connecting to an unfurling in the root, that it, from the glow from the outside in, and the presence of your grounding, make space for all of your power centers in your body, your chakras, even if you're not sure where they are. It's the sense of the spine growing tall and strong, and the central channel becoming more radiant. And that the colors in your body are illuminating. And just simply through our grounding and presence, that there is a sense of expansion, that your soul is taking up space in your body. Down your arms, down your legs, outward into your auric field. May it brighten. The light around the outside of your body, clearing your energy and supporting the radiance of your presence. I pray that light surround the outside of your auric field. I like to visualize the purple because it is the natural layer of the outside of the aura. We'll just engage that awareness of purple light around the outside. And then our energy is grounded in our own bodies individually. I give thanks for this opportunity to be of service. And I pray that this healing support you in your day-to-day and onward and in the best way possible. Thank you, God. So be it, and so it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I spend a lot of time in my head, and that really, your meditations really help me to bring awareness into my body and to feel my body. I didn't know how disconnected I was from my body. And in the last few weeks, as I've been connecting more, I noticed that I get chills like in different areas of my body when something really resonates with me. And I'm like, oh, maybe that's a way that, the world or this, universe is speaking to me.
Yeah, it's actually the claircognizant sense in the body. So people who have claircognizance, and to be clear, I'm going to say everything at the same time. We have multiple clairs in our body, but that particular sense is the knowing sense. It's like people who feel like they know because they know because they know, and they don't know how they know or why they know. They just know. And they will often have kinesthetic responses in the body, like the chills, or they'll get like I just got a shudder, or sometimes they need to go for a walk or move their bodies, and intuition starts to flow a little bit more. So that's like one of the clairs.
Okay, that makes total sense. I actually had a session with this woman named Sadie Brathwaite. She's also a healer, and she said that, and Charlotte, another healer, they both said, like, I'm very kinesthetic, and so I get a lot of messages through my body, and when I need an answer to something, I can even do a yoga pose or do a certain position in my body and ask a question, and then I'll get a sense of the answer through my body. And I was like,
yeah,
I think I just need to continue to develop that.
Yeah. It's the claircognizant sense. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I just wanted to show your book. This is, I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm about a third of the way through. And in Wendy's book, she has guided meditations to go through the different chapters. And I do them every morning, actually, Wendy. It's like a
Oh,
really nice way
good.
to wake up.
Yeah, good.
And let's see, I'm like, focus. So I wanted to go through our lightning round questions before we
Yeah.
start to wrap up here. Okay. I feel like I had more to say about the kinesthetic stuff. Yeah, actually, really quick, can you talk about the different clairs really, really
Mhm.
briefly?
Yeah. So I do talk about this all in the book as well, that we have upper body intuition and lower body intuition. So the clairsentient clair is a lower body intuitive sense, and it is the empathic sense. It's the ability to feel energy through our sentient body. As is the claircognizant sense, again, very lower body, but it also can include the heart. um the claircognizant people, like I shared with you, they know because they know because they know. They may not know why, but they just have the knowing sense and will get things kinesthetically, intuitively through their system. The clairaudient sense, one of the best ways to describe that is more of the mediumship sense. It's not always mediumship only, meaning, people have a clairaudient sense. They might receive higher messages. They might connect with spirit guides and angels. They might hear messages come through. That's very related to the throat chakra. So it's an upper body clair. It's actually related to the back side of the throat chakra. And then there's the clairvoyant sense, which is the ability to have higher perception, visualize, see pictures and images. The upper body clairs, well, let me back up to say the clairvoyant sense sometimes attributes to people who are running companies, CEOs, or people in managerial positions will have heightened perception. They may not identify as a clairvoyant. That's not language they would use, but that it's part of that ability to see the bigger picture of an organization and maybe they're not the detail oriented people, but they're the high visionaries. So sometimes, upper body clairs can relate to psychic intuition, whereas lower body clairs can relate more to empathic intuition. Some people, they will say that, the empathic sense comes with some sort of the psychic activity, but they're actually totally different clairs in the body. So someone who feels they're empathic and also having like heightened psychic activity, heightened dream states, sort of upper body experiences, they actually probably have a blend of upper body and lower body intuition.
Okay. And do we all have a little bit of it to some extent, or do people usually have one that's really strong?
Well, it depends. Some people have all of them that are very strong. Some people have ones that are stronger than others. It has to do with an individual coming into this life and innately having particular power centers that are stronger than others. Like, some people will come in with really strong throat chakras. It's their gift, it's their mission in this world, their ability to sort of channel from a higher place without them even realizing it. It relates to their throat chakra. And again, some people will come in with really strong, third eyes or really strong second chakras. It just depends on, sort of their innate power that they're coming into this world with. And then sometimes through our healing process, we can certainly unblock and start to access some more intuitive and clair senses in the body.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I've always had that sense of just knowing something, and so when you mentioned that, I was like, oh, I do get that. Like sometimes I'll just have a sense that I meant to do something, or I feel called. Like right now, I feel really called to spend the summer in Hawaii. And it's not just about like taking a vacation. I just feel called to go there. And, when I was a nurse, I won't even go into that, but just it's hard too sometimes to have that, because when people ask you why, you can't always rationalize it. And it's not like a good enough answer for people to understand. You're like, I don't know. I just know. I just feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some part of our, part of our own individual growth edge with intuition is that we're just completely aligned with it. Like, I don't know why. I just know. That's it. That's my answer.
Yeah.
I can't give you any other.
Period.
Or for empaths, empaths tend to be slower processors. So they need time to run something through their system and feel it out and get back to you. So just as long as we're able to say, hey, I'm a slow processor. I'm going to take this information, go home, think about it. I'll call you back tomorrow. That's own it. I'm a slow processor.
I got to run it through my body a couple times. Yep. All right, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Well, Wendy, let's go through our lightning round questions. So 2020 was a challenging year for many people, but a lot of great things came out of it. What was one thing that happened for you in 2020 that was wonderful?
More time with my daughter. We just had way more family time than we had before, when it was schedule with everything. We were home, we were grounded.
When you feel off-centered, what brings you back to a place of feeling calm and grounded?
Certainly my breath, some visualization techniques like the grounding cord and the central channel. And sometimes it's talking to someone, calling someone in my support team also. That can also, sometimes we need each other. So that can certainly help.
Do you believe in magic? And if so, what is magic to you?
Yeah, I would say because magic has lots of different meanings. I believe in the power of the miraculous, that miracles can happen and that incredible things can happen, and that we don't always know the potential of what's possible for us in the world. And so in that case, I do believe in that level of magic and transformation that's possible for people.
If you could be any animal, what would you be and why?
I talk to my daughter about this all the time, and we joke about it. I think I would be an eagle because of the ability to fly, the soaring and the freedom feeling that comes with that massive wingspan, and being able to still see and perceive a very keen sense of vision.
Yes, such a good one. I would be a flying animal. Or a unicorn.
Yes. My daughter would be a unicorn. That's her answer.
Well, Wendy, how can people find you if they would like to learn more, read your book, or take one of your courses?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to my website. It's wendyderosa.com. I run the School of Intuitive Studies. So there's the schoolofintuitivestudies.com, either one. And I run a monthly circle or monthly healing once a month if people are interested in receiving deep healing. So that's my Divine Healing Inner Circle. And you can certainly find that on either website, and also programs and events and everything on either website. And my book is there too.
Perfect. And let's see. So all of Wendy's information will be on our show notes page at rainbowsarecircles.com. And the meditation that she did with us will be available to our Patreon supporters on our Patreon page at patreon.com/rainbowsarecircles. And Wendy, is there anything else that you wanted to share or leave with our listeners before we wrap up?
Just that reminder that I really do believe that empaths are leading the way in our consciousness evolution. I think we're done or migrating away from not non-transparency about the truth of who we are. And I really believe empaths are guiding that process of being real with how we feel, vulnerable, connected, having more consciousness in our relationships and existence. So for empaths who, are listening, just know that if you can trust your intuition, trust your inner clairs and what's occurring for you, and let that guide you. I think that is the best advice I can give.
Beautiful. Yes. And if you struggle with being an empath or like overly empathetic, definitely, read Wendy's book or reach out to her, check out her website so that we can become empowered empaths and help guide the world to a new and better place. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a joy.
Thank you.
Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. Wow, 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 wow. Rainbows are circles.